Have you ever stopped to think about what wet food actually does to your cat's body when they eat it every single day? Many owners think it's simply a tastier or higher quality option. But what happens internally is something most people never imagine. It directly affects how their body functions, their little one's well-being, and even the way they behave around you. And what starts happening from the very beginning can completely transform the way you choose to feed your cat. Find out what kicks in from day one. 1. Their body finally gets the water it needs. Have you ever noticed how your cat barely shows any interest in the water bowl? That has nothing to do with laziness or being picky. It's pure instinct. Cats developed as hunters in arid regions. Their ancestors got virtually all their hydration from the prey they caught. That's why their sense of thirst is naturally low. Their bodies were never built to rely on external water. That's how they managed to survive in the wild. But here's an important point. Most house cats eat dry kibble, which has around 10% moisture. Wet food, on the other hand, typically ranges between 75% and 80%. Practically the same hydration level found in prey like mice or small birds. When wet food becomes part of the daily routine, the changes happen fast. Hydration increases, and the kidneys no longer have to work under as much pressure to filter more concentrated waste. Urine becomes more diluted, which helps reduce the risk of crystals and urinary blockages, one of the most common problems in cats, especially males. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery showed that cats fed wet food produce a higher volume of urine with lower concentration. Exactly the ideal scenario for keeping the urinary system healthy. Your cat won't simply stop drinking water overnight, but their body finally stops operating at its limit. And honestly, it's this change that makes all the other benefits on this list possible. But stay with me until the end, because there's one aspect of daily wet food that can end up having the opposite effect. And it happens silently if you're not paying attention. 2. Your little friend's weight shifts in a way you won't expect. Why do so many indoor cats end up struggling with weight, even when owners aren't overfeeding them? It's not laziness. The answer is in what goes into the bowl. Dry kibble tends to be high in carbohydrates, in some cases reaching 40% or more. But cats are obligate carnivores and have virtually no biological need for that type of nutrient. Since their bodies don't process carbohydrates efficiently as an energy source, most of it ends up stored as fat. So it's not a lack of self-control, it's the food's composition. When the diet shifts to wet food on a daily basis, the picture changes too. This type of food tends to have more protein, more moisture, and far fewer carbohydrates. The result is simple but powerful. The cat feels full on fewer calories, without the need to control every portion so strictly. A study from the Waltham Center for Pet Nutrition showed that cats fed wet food are more likely to maintain a leaner body condition compared to those on dry food, even when they have free access to food. This happens because protein generates a stronger sense of fullness than carbohydrates do. The result is that the cat actually feels satisfied, instead of constantly seeking out more food. So if your cat is carrying extra weight and nothing seems to work, maybe the problem isn't the amount of food. It might be the type of food they're getting. And if this is already changing the way you think about feeding your cat, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps this content reach more people who want to take better care of their cats, not just in the most convenient way. 3. Their coat doesn't lie. Have you ever noticed how some cats have an incredibly soft and shiny coat, almost as if it were unreal, while others always seem dry and rough, even with constant brushing? What if that had little or nothing to do with brushing itself? Your cat's coat is one of the clearest signs of what's going on inside their body. When nutrition isn't right, the fur is usually one of the first things to react. A dull coat, excessive shedding, and even dandruff aren't just cosmetic issues, they're indicators. Wet food tends to be naturally richer in animal-based proteins and fats, which are precisely the main building blocks responsible for skin and coat health. Dry food, even in higher quality versions, goes through intense processing that can break down some of those nutrients before they ever reach the cat's body. When you start offering wet food daily, many owners begin to notice coat changes within just a few weeks. The fur becomes silkier, shedding decreases, and that dry or dusty appearance gradually fades away. One of the first visible signs that something deeper in the body is improving. Research published in the Journal of Nutritional Science found that cats on diets richer in protein and moisture showed better coat quality and skin health compared to those eating only dry food. Throughout this process, the body stops prioritizing only basic survival and starts directing nutrients more effectively toward essential functions, like skin and coat. So if you've already tried brushes, supplements, and shampoos, and your cat's fur still hasn't improved, the answer might be right there in the wet food aisle. 4. Their behavior around food changes radically. Does your cat start meowing loudly the moment they notice you heading toward the kitchen? Do they eat like someone could take the food away at any second? Many owners end up thinking it's just a personality trait. But what if the problem isn't greediness? What if they're simply never truly satisfied? Cats that frequently eat dry food can develop more anxious and compulsive eating behaviors. And it doesn't happen because they love food too much. The point is that dry food doesn't always send the right fullness signals to the brain. Because of its high carbohydrate content and low moisture, it's digested quickly, causing hunger to return in a short time. The result is behaviors like constantly begging for food, pacing around the house, and even waking you up in the middle of the night, as if something is missing. When wet food becomes part of the daily routine, that pattern starts to change. The higher protein content contributes to a more genuine and longer-lasting sense of fullness. On top of that, the high moisture content increases the meal's volume, which helps stretch the stomach just enough to activate those natural "I'm done" signals. A study published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior confirmed exactly this. Cats fed on higher protein diets showed less constant food-seeking behavior and fewer signs of frustration between meals. The result is simple to observe and practice. The cat eats, feels satisfied, and naturally walks away from the food. To be realistic, not all food-related anxiety comes purely from the type of diet. Some cats develop the habit of eating quickly as a learned response, especially in multi-cat households or in animals that have been through stressful situations. In those cases, wet food can help. But when combined with tools like food puzzle toys, the effect can be even more significant. It slows eating down and activates their natural hunting and foraging instincts, exactly how their brains were wired to work. When both approaches work together, the change becomes hard to ignore. Cats that feel more consistently satisfied tend to be calmer around food in general. The anxiety decreases, the possessiveness fades, and mealtime goes from chaotic to peaceful. 5. The danger most owners never see coming. If wet food brings so many benefits, where's the downside? This is exactly where that point comes in, the one that can quietly backfire if you're not paying attention. Many owners simply open the can, put it in the bowl, and let the cat eat at their own pace. That seems logical, but wet food doesn't behave like dry food. While dry food can sit out for long periods without major changes, wet food doesn't have that same stability. The moment it reaches room temperature, it becomes an ideal environment for bacteria to multiply. And depending on how warm the house is, that safe window can be as short as 1 to 2 hours. Cats that eat small portions throughout the day end up being the most exposed to this risk. If your cat tends to eat a little, walk away, and come back later, that second or third visit may no longer be safe. The appearance stays the same. The smell might seem normal even to us. But bacterial growth happens invisibly without any warning. The safety rule is straightforward. Never leave wet food out for more than 2 hours. If your cat hasn't finished it by then, the best move is to discard what's left. And any remaining portion from the can should be immediately covered and refrigerated. Even then, it needs to be used within 48 hours. Another thing many owners don't realize is that serving wet food straight from the fridge, still cold, isn't ideal either. Cats are naturally drawn to food closer to body temperature, since that simulates freshly caught prey. Warming it up gently for a few seconds in the microwave, or adding a little warm water, brings it to that more natural temperature and increases the cat's acceptance. None of this means wet food should be avoided. Everything explained up to this point still holds true. The difference between wet food benefiting your cat or quietly causing problems comes down to exactly how it's stored and served after the can is opened. Get that right, and you're giving your cat something much closer to what their body was truly designed to receive.